Welcome back to the program, and it's Friday, or is it Friday?
Friday.
It's Friday, and we keep briefing you on what's happening around you. We'll be crossing over to Nakuru, but before we get to do that, Shiksha.
All right, so I'll be taking some of your feedback later on in the show. So yes, do join me on the other side of the studio. But for now, you can continue the briefing with Samuel Njoroge.
Indeed, I will and I shall. Welcome back to the show. And we take you straight to Nakuru County and bring in our reporter, K24 TV, who's joining us live from that region with an update in as far as what we can expect from you today. K24.
Indeed, Sam Njoroge, we are coming to you live from county number 032. That is the county of Nakuru, where I'm joined by very beautiful people. White is the color today. This is Barclays Back in partnership with the Media Max, Kameme FM and Milele FM in a roadshow to sensitize people on the importance of saving and also to let them know there is a loan they can take so that they can promote their business. That's what we call biashara, and it is called Wezesha Biashara loan. And in the course of the day, I'll be briefing you on what we have here, as in the regional commissioner will be having a presser at 8:30 to just brief us on the progress of the Mau evictions and also other progress in terms of the former IDP's compensation to just take them back to where they were, or for those who don't want to go back, where they are supposed to be settled. We will also be looking into these days being World Tourism Day, and in Nakuru it is being celebrated by hiking. I know Shiksha Arora would like to come, but you don't have that time, or even you are not close to Menengai. So if you want to, you can join us, but we will be on top of Mount Menengai Hills so that we can be able to celebrate World Tourism Day. But before that, let me join one of the staff and the high-ranking staffs of Barclays Bank to just tell us what to expect today. Karibu sana, and you can just introduce yourself by telling us your names and also what are we doing today.
Thank you very much. My name is Caroline Onyango. We are really excited to be here and in partnership with Media Max. Today we are looking to do a roadshow in the whole of Nakuru town and just let business people know that we are looking to see how we can support them as a bank. We have had the same roadshows in Nairobi, in Mombasa, and currently we're also having concurrently in Eldoret in partnership with Media Max, just to make sure that we are enabling all the business people and letting them know that Barclays is here to support you and offer you some level of opportunities for you to grow in forms of finance or in forms of providing you knowledge for your business, in forms of getting you to go into markets which can get you your produce and products. So as a bank, we're just seeing how we can let people know, or let the business people know in Nakuru, that we are here to grow with them and make them prosper.
That is just a brief of what to expect from Nakuru County. Leo niko kwa pesa Njoroge, so you can just ask anything you want. As long as she's here, I'm sorted. My camera person is John Wangombe. My name is K24 TV, taking you back to Shiksha Arora and Sam Njoroge for the rest of the brief as we climb or we go hiking Menengai Hills. Today is World Tourism Day. Back to you, Sam.
Thank you so much, K24 TV, for that update. And yes, I'll hold you to your word. So clearly, uko kwa pesa, and we're going to talk about that later. But for now, let's give you an update in as far as the Precious School or Precious Talent School is concerned, where the owner of Precious Talent School, where a building collapsed, killing 8 pupils, is expected in court this morning after being arrested yesterday. The government has meanwhile revoked the school's operating license and announced its permanent closure after establishing that the proprietor flouted the requirements of their license. A report on the Monday morning tragedy released by Education Cabinet Secretary, that is Professor George Magoha, said the school had admitted more students beyond the stipulated number. Here's Victor Law with that report.
4 days after a classroom block at Precious Talents Academy in Nairobi's Dagoretti area collapsed and killed 8 pupils, leaving several others injured, the Ministry of Education has released its findings into the Monday incident. Speaking during an inspection tour of the new Kihumbwini Primary School in Kangemi, Nairobi, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha put an end to the 8-year operation of the school.
These conditions do not warrant continued existence of the school and is thus recommended for revocation of the certificate and closure.
In a damning report, Magoha said that the school was found culpable of flouting the terms of its license by admitting 3 times the number of pupils it had been licensed to enroll.
The school that collapsed was registered for 340 pupils from ECD to Standard 8. On the day of the incident, the school had an enrollment of 900, which is almost 3 times the number.
The report further revealed that the school had lacked proper physical amenities and did not comply to other quality standards like properly trained teaching staff and sanitation facilities, rendering it void. The over 800 learners who survived the Monday tragedy will now be transferred to 3 other nearby public schools to continue their education. Ngong Forest Primary School will admit 480 pupils. Jamhuri Primary School will take 180 pupils, while Riruta Satellite School will enroll 130 pupils. The proprietor of the Precious Talents Academy, Moses Wainaina, is meanwhile being detained at the police station after he was arrested and questioned for several hours by detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. The suspect, who will appear in court on Friday to face several charges of murder, was arrested hours after Director of Public Prosecutions Nuruddin Haji and his DCI counterpart George Kinoti visited the site of the Monday incident. This as Magoha raised concern over the upsurge of schools sponsored by non-governmental organizations in the informal settlements, who he accuses of being behind the proliferation of substandard learning institutions.
And I want to give you my word as Professor George Albert Omore Magoha, son of Magoha, that we are going to regulate them to ensure that nobody trades with our children.
The declaration by the CS for Education, George Magoha, will no doubt bring a lot of pressure to school operators across the country, but he says that this is only meant to bring sanity and to ensure safety of school learners across the country. Victor Lo, K24 at New Kihumbwini Primary School in Kangemi, Nairobi.
And of course, this story has led the government to begin an audit on infrastructure across all primary schools in the country. And today, we expect the Cabinet Secretary Education, that is Professor George Magoha, to be headed to Mombasa County Greenfields Academy. Be ready, because if Professor Magoha is not there yet, he is headed there, and he'd like to look into the quality of infrastructure with this particular institution. It has been alleged that the safety standards have been totally contravened. It is quite literally next to the airport, and therefore an understanding needs to be created around the construction of this institution. How was it even constructed there in the first place? So we'll be giving you an update from our team in Mombasa. However, for now, you can no longer use the old 1,000 shilling note on Safaricom's mobile money platform M-Pesa. The company halted the use of the demonetized currency by midnight yesterday ahead of the 1st October deadline set by the central bank. Now, meanwhile, individuals holding large sums of money in the old notes are making a last-minute attempt to offload the money, which will become useless by Monday evening. In Narok, residents are advised or have devised new ways to avoid falling prey to cartels using the wheat harvesting season to launder money after CBK raised queries about transactions in the county. Now, Jimmy Mbogo visited the agricultural and tourist town and has more details. Take a look.
It is wheat harvesting season in Narok County, but unlike the previous season, this year is particularly special owing to the ongoing 1,000 shillings demonetization exercise. amid reports of an upsurge in the number of middlemen seeking to purchase the quote-unquote wheat. With only 4 days to the expiry of the September 30th deadline, 2 of which the bank will not be in operation, residents of Narok are no longer accepting the old 1,000 shillings note, with some confirming off camera that unscrupulous middlemen were offering to pay them in excess for their wheat products and have the excess payment refunded through the bank at a negotiated fee. However, a majority of the wheat farmers are only accepting cash payment for convenience.
Kuna wakulima ambayo wanasema hawana accounts, bank accounts, so inabidi tuwalipe cash.
Farmers who are holding significant amounts of the old 1,000 shillings note are now opting to lend out the money to reduce their risk.
Most of them have decided to give people loans back home. They have decided to give people loans. That's how they are trying to use money to extend the money.
This amid fears that most residents may be left holding worthless amounts of money once the old 1,000 shillings note ceases to be a legal tender beginning 1st October.
Nobody trusts anyone with money. So even if you try the best to tell somebody to exchange the money, he'll always think you are conning him.
According to the Kenya Bankers Association, banks will over this weekend continue operating within their stipulated periods since there was no unusual movement in the number of clients flocking to the bank halls. Kenya Bankers Association Chief Executive Officer Habilolaka said, and I quote, "We have not seen cues to warrant us to consider that. If we saw a push whereby customers are coming at the last minute to bring this money, then we say, yes, we can consider that. But I see everything is going on as usual." End of quote. Other retail outlets such as supermarkets are putting up offers to entice customers to dispense the old 1,000 shillings note ahead of the expiry of the deadline. The central bank has meanwhile deployed additional staff to sensitize Kenyans holding the old 1,000 shillings note to exchange them before the grace period expires on Monday 4 p.m. Jimmy Mbogo, K24 Evening Edition.
That is our business reporter, Jimmy Mbogo, and we'll be taking feedback in as far as that issue is concerned a little later on the show. However, right now, let's take you to Mombasa County, and here is our reporter, Fred Kai, joining us live from County 001. Of course, one of the issues that he will be updating us on is whether or not Professor Magoha will be headed to Mombasa. Now, thank you so much for joining us, Fred. We are made to understand that Cabinet Secretary George Magoha will be making way to Mombasa today.
Shukran sana Samna Shiksha back in studio. Na ni kweli kwamba waziri basi wa elimu Professor George Magoha hii leo amekita kambi katika county 001 na ataweza tu kuanza katika sehemu ile ya Changamwe ile kuweza kuangalia tu shule zipi zile ambazo pengine ziko na ati na kuweza kuamuru mara moja kuweza kufungwa kwa shule zile. Na hii leo basi mwendo wa saa 4 atakuwa katika maeneo ya Changamwe, shule ambayo inaitwa Greenfield, na tutaweza kuwa katika maeneo yale na kuweza kumjuza Mkenya yapi yanajiri kutoka maeneo yale ya Changamwe. Na jambo lingine ambalo tunaweza kufuatilia hii leo ni kwamba mwendo wa saa 7 hivi chama cha wauguzi basi kitakuwa na kongamano lao la kila mwaka katika maeneo yale ya World Waters, na wataweza kuongea na wanahabari mwendo wa saa 7 mchana, na tutaweza kujua tu ni yapi ambayo wataweza kutuongelesha na kutuambia ama kuweza kuambia Wakenya yapi yanajiri kuhusu sekta hii ya afya. Na vile vile tumetoka tu katika mkutano na Doc Workers Union ambao wako na mambo mengi tu ikiwemo mojawapo ikiwa ni mambo tu ya SGR ambao imeweza kuleta utata katika kaunti ya Mombasa, na tumeweza kuona kwamba kila Jumatatu katika wiki zilizopita kulikuwa na maandamano ya amani kushindikiza Rais Uhuru Kenyatta kuweza kusitisha ule mwafaka wao wa kuweza kupeleka makasha kutoka port ya Mombasa hadi port ya Nairobi, kwamba waweze kupatia tu nafasi pia wafanyabiashara mbalimbali waweze kufanya ile biashara, wasiwe kwamba ni lazima basi makasha haya yaweze kubebwa na reli ya kisasa. Hizo tu ni baadhi tu ya matukio ambayo tutaweza kufuatilia, tukiweza kuona kwamba pia vile vile mwendo wa saa 4 kutakuwa na waziri wa utalii Najib Balala katika maeneo yale ya Mama Ngina. Ataweza tu kupeana title deed ile katika wizara ya ardhi ili kuona kwamba kupeana mwafaka wa maeneo yale ya Mama Ngina, na tumeweza kuona kwamba maeneo yale ya Mama Ngina basi mwaka huu yataweza kufanya yale ile sherehe kuu ya kitaifa, sherehe ya kitaifa ambayo itaweza kuleta pamoja, ambao tukiona kwamba tunaweza kumtarajia pia vile vile Rais Uhuru Kenyatta ataweza kufika mahali hapa na kuweza kusherekea sherehe hii kubwa. Na tumeweza kuna katika maeneo yale tayari basi wanajeshi wako pale kuhakikisha kwamba kila kitu kishwari na mambo mbalimbali kuhusu masuala ya usalama, miundo misingi na mambo mengine, kuhakikisha kwamba siku hii basi itakuwa ni siku ya kufanya. Ni baadhi tu ya matukio ambayo tutaweza kufuatilia kutoka kaunti ya Mombasa, na tutaweza kuwajuza tu wa Kenya ni yapi yanajiri kadri siku inavyoenda. Kutoka hapa na kuregesha kwako studio. Sam.
Thank you so much, Fred Kai, for that update live from Mombasa. You had it right. Yes, Cabinet Secretary George Magoha will be in Mombasa today inspecting infrastructure in schools around that area. We'll also have the annual general meeting of the Kenya National Union of Nurses happening in Mombasa. And of course, he's also mentioned that Cabinet Secretary Tourism, that is Najib Balala, will be at the Mama Ngina waterfront. Remember that this will be the venue that will host Mashujaa Day 2019 in just a matter of weeks. So he will be there to, among other things, inspect the progress of the rehabilitation of this venue ahead of this public holiday. Now, let's move on and connect this next report with what Cabinet Secretary Magoha is expected to do in Mombasa today, where over 10 schools have been closed in Nairobi so far as the crackdown on schools operating in unsafe conditions gains momentum. The exercise continues even as it emerged that some public schools expected to take in the affected learners are overwhelmed and will struggle to accommodate the increased number. Dennis Matara is up next with that report.
An operation that was kicked off by Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha Wednesday afternoon, targeting schools considered to be operating illegally or in inhabitable conditions. By the end of the day, 4 schools, including St. Catherine Education Center in Kibra, had been ordered to cease operations. On Thursday, the second day of operation, more schools were closed down as Magoha conducted another impromptu inspection tour of the sprawling Kangemi area.
The government standard is the gold standard. It is the gold standard. If you are going to argue that there is no space, you can build a good structure.
This as learners from schools which fell victim of Professor Magoha's purge on Wednesday afternoon remained out of school. At St. Catherine Education Center in Bombolulu, Kibra, stranded teachers miled around the corridors of the school, pondering their next move after being technically rendered jobless.
Tumekuwa walimu 13 na wapishi 2 wote kwa ujumla, ambapo sasa venye shule imefunga hivi, sasa siwezi jua nao watapata aje chakula chao kwa vile wote wametegemea hapa.
The school, built in a similar fashion as the ill-fated Precious Talents Top Academy in Dagoretti, remained empty. On the roof is a concrete slab sitting on wooden beams to support several classrooms overhead. But parents at the school remained adamant that they will not transfer their children to Ayani Primary School as directed by the government.
Tunaona ni hatari, lakini wangempea hata wiki moja. Tuone mahali sisi wenyewe tupeleke watoto wetu. Sio watu lazimisha tupeleke watoto Ayani. Mtu utaweza jipanga upeleke mtoto mahali unafikiria.
Na sasa hakuna admission yoyote yenye inaweza chukua watoto sai Juni 3 tamu, na tumepaki na siku chache tu wafanye KCPE.
But Professor Magoha was having none of these, insisting the crackdown will continue.
And the instruction is very clear that any school whose structure is unstable and is a double-story building has to be closed.
One of the schools expected to absorb the affected learners is Ayani Primary School in Kibra. But the members of the school management who spoke off camera in fear of victimization revealed that the school does not have adequate space or teachers to accommodate the increased number of learners. By close of business Thursday, only 17 out of 200 learners transferred from St. Catherine Center had reported to Ayani. As the government intensifies its crackdown on schools established under dangerous structures, the fate of students affected hangs in the balance since some of the schools recommended are congested.
Now, and as a critical question is being asked by education stakeholders, what becomes of the infrastructure around schools moving forward? And even those that argue if Precious Talents School unfortunate incident did not happen, would we be having this conversation right now? And what becomes even of sentiments that have been expressed by, among other people, Wilson Sosion, that before the rollout of the competency-based curriculum, there should be an elaborate conversation around infrastructure across the over 35,000 primary schools that we have in the country. Moving forward, it will be important to even see what the Education Committee of the National Assembly recommends. Remember, they had a session with Education Ministry officials. We saw Principal Secretary Coletta Suda, Principal Secretary Belio Kipsang, as well as Cabinet Secretary George Magoha. Before that, Select Committee of the National Assembly. Critical questions are being raised, but that has been done before. You know, the whole element of asking questions. But moving forward, we need to see answers. We need to see strategies that will ensure that we are not where we are in as far as infrastructure of schools is concerned. Let's see how this issue pans out. But for now, let's take a break. The Daily Brief returns in just a moment.